Hey guys, it's been a while, and apparently I have a new car now.
Yeah, so as many of you saw, we got rid of the Mach-E. I will link that video at the end if you want to hear all the reasons why we got rid of the Mach-E. But this video is about the new vehicle that we got. So let's show them. The 2025 Cadillac Lyriq, which might be a surprise for some of you. I saw a lot of fun comments and questions and guesses in the video about the Mach-E. And so in this video, we're going to talk about why we went with the Lyriq, why it's the best choice for us, and yeah, just kind of how this all came to be.
So as you can see, the Cadillac Lyriq, it's really, really cool. I chose the Emerald Lake Metallic because, again, I love the green. My previous Mercedes C300 was Emerald Green Metallic, so this is really, really cool being able to get a color that's really similar to what I had with my Mercedes. So I'm so happy to be in a color again. It's so exciting. It's a really cool car. I picked it because, again, this had so many fun things that we enjoy, and it's just so exciting to be in more of a luxury car again, which is what I love and where my home is. So I think this is so cool, and it looks so pretty. So let's take a look at the inside. I think the inside's really, really cool. I love interiors, as you know. One cool thing about these doors too is that the handles pop out, which is so nice. Nicer than the Mach-E to have an actual handle, so that's been really great. So I chose the light gray interior because I love how it brightens up the cabin. It was definitely something I needed instead of having a dark interior. It also has this blue piping, which is super cool on the inside.
And as far as the things that I love about it, I just always liked the Lyriq. If you watched my review last year, I thought this was so cool looking on the outside. And for us, it was also just a really nice fit as far as the sizing. We'll talk about that more when we go to the inside. But on the outside, I love that front signature that it does. And also the fact that we actually got the base trim. This is the Luxury 1 level, and we still have the top-notch headlights. We still have the cool welcome lighting. A lot of other companies make you go up to higher trims for that, and Cadillac doesn't. Still have great base wheels here on these. They still look really nice. And this one actually also has the optional black roof. It's very minor because this is, again, a pretty dark green, so the black's more subtle, but you have, the A-pillar going into the roof there that is black, and that was something we didn't look for, but the car that we ended up getting just happened to have that, and we'll discuss the deal and how all that played out in a minute here. But especially, I love the taillights here, and I always thought this is the coolest thing, because to me it reminds me of the 50s Cadillacs with the fins, and even early 60s, and just, a way to do a fin in modern times, in my opinion, is, one thing I really always loved about these. I always admire these. I mean, Beth and I, every time we'd be out driving, we'd pass by a Lyriq and be like, wow, that looks so nice. And honestly, we just didn't think that it was ever in the cards for us, because this is a luxury brand. This is a $65,000 car. Mach-E was $50,000. We were looking to reduce our payment, not increase it. And thankfully, because of the incentives that they had on these and the lack of deals for Mach-E, this actually came out to be cheaper than the Mach-E, believe it or not, and by a lot. I mean, we got a nice savings over our prior Mach-E as well. So we'll talk about all that in here, but yeah, overall, I'm personally very tickled. As many of you know, I enjoy dark green cars as well, and so having another dark green car also makes me very happy too. Alright, so here on the inside, we're going to talk about the things we really like and also the things we don't like about the Lyriq so far, and then we're also going to discuss the deal and how this worked out for us, and then we're also finally going to discuss some of the competitors, some of the things that you guys mentioned as far as competitors in the last video. We're going to kind of talk about why all of those weren't what we wanted and it didn't fit with what we were looking for. So as far as the pros, you can start us off.
The first one that I was really excited about was more space in this car. Just a little bit, not too much space, but definitely bigger. I mean, we are a family of 3, so it's not like we need a ton of space, because I definitely don't need a 3-row SUV or anything, and I like having smaller cars anyways. This is a little bit bigger for me. I am getting used to it, but it's so much nicer to have so much more space. There's a lot of times where I drive my parents around in this car. My dad is 6'3", so just keeping him in mind as well, it's nice to be able to have a little bit more space in this car. Our daughter is also 90th percentile. She is very, very tall, and being able to give her a little bit more legroom was definitely a pro for us and something we needed for sure.
Yeah, and you know, I think also just like this is just a massive upgrade from a power standpoint. I mean, 500 horsepower here in these. So that's something that I appreciate. I mean, you know, we're not doing full throttle runs, you know, for a family vehicle, but just a nice improvement there over the Mach-E, and also just the smoother ride. I think in the better handling, I mean, you have much wider tires on this. You have little tiny 225 wide tires on the Mach-E. This having 265s, much more planted feel, and you know, just from a handling standpoint, it's just a lot better.
I normally don't pay attention to how things drive, and surprisingly enough, when I did take this car for a test drive, I was very surprised, and that was one of the first things I told Matt was, wow, it was really smooth, and I was surprised, definitely in comparison to the Mach-E. So I think I was just really excited to get into this car from then on.
Yeah, I mean, even like the quietness, like, I mean, driving home from the dealership in this, it's just like truly like a night and day difference. I mean, it's a luxury brand. It is a significant step up. And so I think just the thing that kind of I had almost like pinched myself about was like, again, this was less expensive than the quotes we got on Mach-E's. And it's such an improvement as far as all that stuff. So the other things, though, you know, that I personally really liked, you know, is that this has Apple CarPlay. This and the Hummer are the only GM vehicles that were grandfathered in before GM changed course and decided to alienate everyone who wants CarPlay. And CarPlay was a deal breaker for both of us. It was like a non-negotiable, like we had to have CarPlay. So that immediately disqualified anything else from GM. It disqualified, you know, the Rivians, the Teslas, any of that stuff, automatically disqualified just because no CarPlay. It really is something we use every day, all the time.
Yeah, and CarPlay is really important, especially having a toddler in the car. And if I need to text somebody or listen to a phone call or even listen to a text message, being able to access those and access those easily, it was 100% a deal breaker. I would not have gotten a car if it didn't have Apple CarPlay.
And that's part of why, like, the Optic, I just reviewed that, you know, a few months ago, and that we were super impressed with. And I mean, we didn't need the extra space of the Lyriq. We didn't need the extra power of the Lyriq. I mean, we like the extra space, but I think that because the deals are so much better on Optic, I wish Optic had CarPlay, because I probably would have, you know, leaned more towards Optic. But like, it was that simple. It's this has CarPlay, nothing else does, because I mean, Equinox EV would have been fine for us too, but that doesn't have CarPlay either. So there's just, you know, all these others that were disqualified. And I mean, the GM EVs are just so good. I mean, I'm so impressed with this. You know, we'll talk more about all the other things we love about it, but like, GM is doing a fantastic job with their EVs, and it's just unfortunate that everything else, you know, loses out on some sales because of the CarPlay. And I know I'm not the only one. I've heard others that agreed with me in those complaints. And if you want to hear all the reasons why, we won't go into it in this video. I did a separate video about doing a week with a Chevy Blazer EV and that not having CarPlay and all the frustrations and exactly why it's annoying if you are in the Apple ecosystem as much as we are. But anyway, moving on from that here. Other things we really liked about it, we liked the cooler styling. That was something I think both of us were, again, really appreciating. Faster charging. We don't do a lot of road trips in this, but if we happen to, it's just nice to know this charges 190 kilowatts versus our standard range Mach-E peaked at, I think, 130 kilowatts. The long range ones are 150, but this does charge quicker. We also have more range, bigger battery, and that was something that was important to us as well.
And one thing we love to do is go to visit my sister. She's a state away. She's about 100 miles away, and we do like to go see her every once in a while. So with the Mach-E, we always had to make sure we just had a press car so that we could go and see her. The Mach-E could have been driven all the way down there, but we would have had to stop at a charge port and charge it up. It's not an issue, and we could have worked around it, but with the Lyriq, it's definitely nicer that we could do a round trip without having to charge.
Yeah, just kind of have that buffer, I think, was kind of just, you know, I get a nice thing. It wasn't a must-have. We considered some other EVs that were very similar range to the Mach-E. 220 miles or so is fine for us. And again, we have workarounds with press cars and stuff, but it's just nice to know if we don't have a press car, we can still go down and see your sister. And, you know, the Mach-E, we might have even been able to barely eke out, you know, the full trip if it was summertime and we didn't have the range loss of winter. But just, again, nice to kind of have that buffer here with this. And so that's another perk. We also really like that we have a moonroof cover. That's something that Ford never did on the Mach-Es and still has yet to do. And I think GM kind of took notes of everything that Tesla and Ford weren't doing. And we're like, why don't we have a cover? We have a cover on all of our other SUVs with panoramic roofs. Let's do a cover. And, you know, so that's like one really nice thing for us.
Yeah, especially because our daughter sits in the back seat and there's so many times where she's like, Mommy, the sun's in my eyes. Mommy, the sun's so hot, and just being really frustrated about the sun. And I would just always throw sunglasses on her in the Mach-E, or just, you know, give her a blanket to cover her eyes. But now it can actually close. And the cool thing about the Lyriq is that it can close like halfway. So it's still open, but it takes that sun out of her eyes.
Yeah. And so I think, you know, the other really just last nice thing about this is just also it was something new. Mach-E was great and we were happy about it, and, you know, would have happily owned another one if the deals worked out. We were very close to actually getting another Mach-E. You know, we were pretty set on going for that eruption green color because we love the green, and, you know, they did have the extended range battery with, you know, we're going to do that for 300 or so miles of range, and it had cooled seats now and all those other things. But you know, it was just that if this is better priced and also something fresh, I think that kind of is also kind of something exciting to be able to experience as well. The only things we don't like about the Lyriq so far are, one, there are higher insurance costs because naturally it's a 65 grand car versus 50, and it's also not 3 years old like the Mach-E is. So, you know, there's some extra costs there. For us, it works out to about $40 extra per month. You know, obviously insurance rates are different for everyone, but you know, because of the extra savings of the Mach-E, or, you know, going for this over the Mach-E, you know, that's still something I was okay with. And, you know, that will also drop with our insurance company later on down the road. Anyway, but that's the one con.
There's also no rear wiper in this. And while that is okay in the higher trims, being in this luxury one trim, it's kind of iffy because the rear window is definitely smaller, especially smaller than the Mach-E. I can see it, it's visible and fine, but in the higher trims, you do get that rear view camera, which is really nice. I don't have that, didn't have it before, so I don't know what I'm missing. So it's totally fine. But so that was one thing that I was kind of upset about because the Mach-E did have a rear wiper. I have driven it in the rain a couple of times and it's been fine. So something I can live with, but definitely something that I was sad to let go of.
Yeah. And then the last thing is just the fact that it doesn't have a lock button on the outside of the vehicle. And I complained about this in my Lyriq review as well, that if you want to lock the vehicle, you either use your key fob, or you can press the lock button on the door before you leave whenever the door is open, or you have auto lock, which is what we've been using.
Yeah, and the auto lock is nice because you just walk away and after a certain amount of time it will lock, and I have it set up so it beeps when it locks and the mirrors fold in, so that's something that lets me know if I am quickly looking back that it's locked and good to go.
Yeah, so that's really the things we loved and, you know, dislike about it. Now, as far as the deal, so you might be wondering, how is this, you know, coming out to be less than a Mach-E? And I was just as shocked as you are. And so, you know, obviously there are other things that are cheaper, and we were looking to lower our payment, but we also wanted to make sure that, again, we got the things that we wanted, like CarPlay, and, you know, the things that, you know, just fit with what we were looking for. And so we'll talk about the competitors in a minute. But as far as the deal itself, I will say, I'm not going to say the actual amount that I'm paying because you're not going to be able to replicate my deal, because I did, full disclosure, get a $1,000 discount from Cadillac Corporate, which lowered the lease price on this. So that was a nice thing. We also got the Conquest deal, which is, you know, if you're coming out of, you know, a competing vehicle, Cadillac gives you another $2,000 off of the lease. And this is also a demo vehicle. So a demo vehicle is a really cool program that Cadillac has, and others have demos, but they don't have the same incentives. With this, it knocked, like, I think another like $2,500 off of the lease price and the discount of the car, because it's basically this program where, as long as you have a certain amount of miles on it, this one, right now we have 439 miles on it, so very low mileage. It's not like this is a beat up rental car or anything. you know, it's just, you have a certain amount of miles you put on it, and then, you know, it's able to be in the loaner program, and that helped to lower this as well. So technically, you could kind of say we're leasing a used vehicle in a way, but I mean, again, it's brand new. It's just that it's got a couple hundred miles on it, you know, before we signed all the papers there on it. And I want to give a shout out to number one Cochrane, and Cochrane Cadillac of Monroeville. They were the ones that worked with us on this. They were fantastic to work with, and it was really nice to do an in-state deal for once, because all the vehicles that we've bought, going back 10 years basically, have all basically been out of state and headaches from a titling standpoint. So I'm so thankful to have a good dealer here in the Pittsburgh area to actually work with. And funny enough, and if you've been watching a long time, the last time I actually bought a car locally was the Subaru BRZ, and that was actually from number one Cochrane as well. They were fantastic even, you know, 13 years ago now, with not doing a markup on the BRZ back when that was the hottest thing around. And so it's kind of funny. This dealership actually is like 100 feet away from the Subaru dealer, so it was really kind of cool to go back to where it all began with the BRZ for this. And so they were just really great to work with. So I want to give a huge thank you to Dave, to Logan, and to Rachel for all helping us out here to make this deal possible, and yeah, just working with us here to, again, you know, be very patient with all of my questions and trying to, you know, get as many discounts and lower the price as much as possible. We did do a 2-year lease, by the way, 10,000 miles a year, so they're just really, really great. And they also, by the way, you know, because of the tax credits going away here by September 30th, they do have optics, by the way. If you don't care about CarPlay, they have optics for under $200 a month, they say, before taxes. So just public service announcement. They're fantastic to work with, and literally getting like a 50 grand Cadillac with the optic for under $200 a month before taxes is wild. You won't, I mean, this is why, again, we wanted to, you know, jump on this deal and wanted to, you know, get a nice car, because you're not going to be able to get a $65,000 car for the price that we got this for ever again. You know, these lease deals are really sweet right now, and highly recommend if you're, you know, wanting or open to an EV, you're going to get way more car. Lease any other gas car for 65 grand. You're going to be paying way more money. So it's just, you know, really, really cool. But yeah, I mean, they have all kinds of, they have a partnership with Treehouse, so you can install charging in your house. They also even have like extended battery warranty. So if you're someone who's really paranoid about your battery warranty and you're going to keep the car forever, they have all that as well. So it's, you know, kind of full service there. And again, just can't recommend them enough. They're just fantastic. And then the last thing to mention here is, again, how it compares to the competition. So we kind of briefly went over a few of them here, you know, so anything that didn't have CarPlay, automatic disqualification, like not even considered. That was just non-negotiable. As far as the things that do have CarPlay, though, you know, like we just had an Ioniq 5 from Hyundai, the press car, just a few weeks ago, actually. And Beth even took it for a little drive to see what she thought about it. And, you know, I've always really loved the Ioniq 5. I love the styling. I love the 80s retro kind of thing. It's a really, really good EV. And so that would have been one that I would have been totally fine with personally, because they added a rear wiper for 2025, wireless CarPlay, all these things. So I actually really like the Ioniq 5.
I just felt like it looked like a little too like bubbly. I don't know how else to explain it, but I've never really loved the styling of the Ioniq.
Yeah. And so there were some of these things where I'd come to her and I'd be like, what do you think about this? She's like, I don't like the styling of this. We were also tempted, I mean, at least me, by, you know, the Toyota BZ4X, the pre-refresh here, the Subaru Solterra, and even the Lexus RZ version. I mean, you can get an RZ for like $300 a month, like dirt cheap leases for, again, a car that's 60 grand. And you want to tell them you're holed up with those vehicles?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I'm not a Subaru girl. I don't like Subarus. Sorry, spoiler alert.
And you married Subaru Dorks fan?
I did, yes. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I don't know. They're not my cup of tea. And so I just didn't really want one of those. I drove this and I was like, I fell in love and I was like, I don't want to look at anything else. I just want this car and we're going to figure out how to get it.
That was the mistake, was, yeah, once she rode in this, she was like, I don't want to sell for anything else. But the real big thing is, I was really like, with the RZ, I was like, that could actually really work well for us. But the pointy spoiler in the back was the thing you really hated about those.
Yes, I didn't like those, and I don't know what the heck that's all about. Like, you're like putting your claws out in the back or something. Like, that for me was like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so like the Genesis GV60 we really liked.
I did really like that one.
We had one of those a few years ago. But the problem with the GV60 is there's one, not really any good lease deals. They don't do any of them in any colors anymore. Like all the colors vanished when I was looking nationwide. Everything is white or black or silver or gray. All the fun colors, they had like a mint green, they had like an orangey, bronzy kind of color. All these cool colors, they like quit making those colors, or they're just not shipping them to America. I don't know, but like there's just like no good colors, and we didn't want white or black.
Yeah, again, and that was one of the things that I didn't love about the Ioniq too, is I didn't like the colors on that. We looked into the Nissan Ariya, and I also didn't like those colors. I didn't like that everything was pretty much two-toned, and I just like didn't love it. So
yeah. And then like, you know, Genesis GV70 electrified, that's actually a little bit more expensive, but I was like, okay, well if there's a deal, we love the GV70, and an electric version of that would probably be pretty much perfect. But the problem with that is, again, there's actually hardly any GV70s available, electrified versions to lease. No one's really seeming like they want to do any deals on them, and there again was like white and black to choose from for the ones that were out there. So that was out. You know, other stuff we consider like Mercedes EQB, a little too small.
yeah, and I'm upset because I love that, but when I did drive it at some point in the past few years, I didn't like how it drove.
Yeah, and then like EQS and stuff. There's even some crazy lease deals on like Lease Hacker. Some people are getting like the giant EQS for pretty cheap for the EQS SUV. We don't love the styling of it, but like, you know, you were kind of
again bubbly.
Yeah, but you were kind of excited about maybe a Mercedes would be kind of cool to get back into, since you know really love the brand and stuff. But that was one where like the brake pedal just felt kind of weird, and it just we didn't love the way it drove. And then the last couple, you know, to mention, like there's the Honda Prologue, which they do really good lease deals on those. You kind of weren't crazy about the styling of the Prologue either. And myself, the infotainment was kind of buggy when I had one to review, and I just didn't love it still. And again, the fact that, yes, this is more expensive than a Prologue lease, but it's so much nicer. I mean, the Prologue interior is very plasticky. It just seemed like it was kind of a half-baked effort, in my opinion. Again, it's dirt cheap. I recommend it if you want something really cheap, but we were comfortable kind of paying a little bit more to get something we were a little bit more excited about. And even like same thing, Acura ZDX, you know, that's an Acura kind of a luxury premium brand, but that also interior is way worse than the Lyriq. You know, ZDX is still a great deal. I mean, you can get, you know, those things for like $400 a month. And so that's really, you know, was tempting. But again, this wasn't much more, and this is you know, just so much nicer with all the metal switches. I mean, you know, we love how it has, you know, actual climate controls. That's something we didn't have in the Mach-E, and just, yeah, you know, so that's kind of, I guess, the overall wrap up of our thought process of the past 6 months here, that we've kind of been or especially the past, you know, 3 or 4 months. Once we knew the tax credit was going away, once we knew that the Mach-E trade-in value was equaling our payoff, we were able to say, okay, well, we can get out of the Mach-E now. We got this deadline. Let's make a move. And so we did. And again, thanks to the number one Cochrane, thanks to Cadillac and everyone else. And also just a lot of legwork. I mean, I probably got at least a dozen price quotes, but that's what it came down to.
That spent like, he spent weeks doing that.
But you know, Mach-E's, I mean, I got how many, probably 5 or 6 different Mach-E quotes. Everyone was coming in higher than the Lyriq.
It was insane how many times he was like, this is going to be cheaper. I know this one's going to be cheaper because this, that, and the other thing. And then they would be like, they would be like, okay, this much. And he'd be like, this is $200 more than what the Lyriq is. It was just so crazy.
Yeah, so many people were so, I mean, I know they assume that you're an idiot, and so they give you some sky-high price quote, and then you gotta, you know, whittle them down, and it's the whole negotiating process, I know, but like, the amount of dealers that after I whittled them down, and they still were more expensive than the Lyriq, I'm like, dude, I can get a 65 grand car for the same price as your 50 grand car, and they're still defending their price. Well, this is really well priced. I'm like, you have fun with that. I'm gonna go get the Lyriq. And it's just, you know, I mean, maybe again in the future things will be different as far as pricing, but just like Cadillac had the best incentives, again, the best experience. It all kind of just was a perfect storm in the best way possible, and then combined with, again, the fantastic car the Lyriq is, just everything kind of lined up here for us. That again, we are saving hundreds of dollars a month over what we were paying on our previous Mach-E, and you know, again, it's just like, I wish I could have done a longer lease. I would have done a 5-year lease on this thing if I could have, just because I want to lock in these cheap prices as long as I possibly can, because it's just like incredible, you know, that we can get this thing for as much as we paid for it.
Yeah, and I'm just really excited because a month and a half ago, if you would have said, are you getting a new car? I would have been like, huh? No. So I think it's just really exciting to be able to be in something new and fresh and yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's basically everything. Let us know if you have any other follow-up questions in the comments below. We will, of course, like all of my, you know, all the vehicles that we have here on the channel, you know, I'll be giving updates at least once a year. With the Mach-E, there wasn't really a whole lot to talk about, so it wasn't like I was doing, you know, monthly updates or anything. When there's something to talk about on this, you know, I'll give you guys an update, and if, you know, there's nothing to talk about, it'll just be once a year, kind of saying it's still really good, because that's, with EVs, thankfully, most of the time, you know, you don't have all these, you know, issues. It's just a good vehicle, and I think that's what we love about it, is it's just, it's a great family vehicle. It's uneventful. It takes no maintenance, no effort at all, really. You just drive it and enjoy it, and so yeah, we're really looking forward to enjoying this here for the next 2 years, and we might even keep it beyond that. I mean, if, you know, the lease buyout turns out to be you know, better, we may end up, you know, even keeping this for a long time, because we really do love it. You know, we did end up, you know, going for, again, this luxury one. You know, the luxury 2 gives you the ventilated seats, gives you, again, the camera rearview mirror, gives you the AKG stereo, which I personally would have really liked. You also get Super Cruise in that. We really would have liked to have those things, but again, we road tripped the Mach-E twice. I'm not, you know, Super Cruise is great, but I personally only use it on a longer trip. Otherwise, I want to drive myself, and so Super Cruise wasn't a must-have. The stereo wasn't a must-have.
Yeah, it wasn't something we had to, like, bend over backwards to get. And, like, we don't need all of this stuff. Like, yes, it could be nice, but again, we were just trying to lower our price, and it worked out so well.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like almost a 10 grand jump going up to the next trim, and it's a lot of stuff, so I mean, it's probably worth it, but just for us, the price leap wasn't something we could justify, because we were used to not having cooled seats, because we didn't have them in the Mach-E, and again, we have all these other upgrades. And honestly, this stereo, the final thing I'll say, I saw so much crap about this stereo online, the bass lyric stereo, and people are like, oh, it sounds like a transistor radio, and rah, rah, and that's ridiculous. It doesn't have a ton of bass, but it is a completely fine, I'd even say better than fine stereo. I mean, it is a really nice stereo still. So, you know, if you are also on the fence, like, oh, I see all these bad things about, you know, the bass trim, you know, stereo, don't be scared off. Unless you are some real picky audiophile, you're going to be totally fine with this. It does not sound like a transistor radio. It's just, the internet, you know, is insane sometimes. But, you know, we're really happy with it. As someone even who, you know, both of us really enjoy music, we don't regret not going for the AKG. It's certainly nice. I remember having it last year. It's an incredible sound experience, certainly better than this, but this is completely fine, especially since we're most of the time listening to Disney radio and stuff. And this, you know, we're not having intense jam out sessions, you know, because usually we have our daughter in the car, and, you know, it's, you know, just not something we have a lot of opportunity
Hey, but the intense jam out sessions of some Disney music is probably so great anyways.
Right. But we don't need any kind of insane stereo for that and blasting our 4-year-old's eardrums out. So, you know, this will be completely fine for us. And, but yeah. So anyway, I think that's enough blabbering from both of us, but hopefully you enjoyed this video. Definitely, again, be sure to subscribe. Stay tuned for our adventures with this vehicle, and any other follow-up, you know, questions you have, again, please leave them below. More than happy to answer. And yeah, so thank you all very much for watching. Thanks to everyone also that helped to make this possible there at #1 Cochran, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.